Hello guys, Rob1 here and welcome to How to Yu-Gi-Oh, a segment on my channel where I teach you the basics of Yu-Gi-Oh. Now, in today's Yu-Gi-Oh video, we are going to be teaching you how to Pendulum Summon and various other things about Pendulum Monsters. Now, as you can see in front of me, I have various different Pendulum Monsters, be it from normal Pendulum Monsters, Effect Pendulum Monsters, Fusion Pendulum Monsters, Synchro Pendulum Monsters, and also Xyz Pendulum Monsters. These are all different variants of Pendulum Monsters in the game of Yu-Gi-Oh so far. So, first of all, what's the difference between some of these Pendulum Monsters? Well, for starters, some of these actually go in the extra deck zone, which is right here, which is the Synchro, Fusion, and Xyz Pendulum Monsters. Will be representing the extra deck zone up here, because of obviously zones here are kind of required. And you also have the other Pendulum Monsters, which will be going in the main deck, zone, which is here on the map, next to this zone right here. Now, let's have a look at the Pendulum cards in general to learn some stuff about them. So, looking at Pendulum cards, these cards are very different from normal cards. They are half spell card and also half monster card, which is very different, and they also have various different things on the card, such as, for starters, these two zones, which are the Pendulum scales. These two numbers represent the scale of a Pendulum monster. So on Odd Eyes Pendulum Dragon here, you have two scales. One is scale 4, and the other is also scale 4. There has never been a Pendulum monster been made that has had two different scales depending on the color of the crystal. That is very important. But there's also two other things about this card. The Pendulum Monsters have a pendulum effect, which is listed in this box here, while also having a standard monster effect, which is listed in the box here. Now, the Pendulum effect is the box right here, which doesn't have anything other than an effect in it, and the monster effect is here, which is listed with Dragon, Pendulum, and Effect Monster, such as a normal effect would be. So this is the basics of a Pendulum card. This is the format of a Pendulum monster. These are its scales, and these two numbers represent its scale, and also this box is for its Pendulum effect, and this is for its monster effect. Now, let's actually get into how to Pendulum Summon. So, for starters, to Pendulum Summon, you need two scales. For these scales, we'll be using Dragon Pulse Magician and also Dragon Pit Magician. So, where on the map do these go? Well, they go into the Pendulum Zone, which is also known as a Spell and Trap Card Zone. Originally, they used to go up into two special zones between the Field Spell Zone, Extra Deck Zone, Graveyard, and also Main Deck Zone, but that was changed during Master Rule 4. So, now we are going to place these two cards into the different Pendulum Zones. So, these two cards are now Pendulum Scales. They are now considered spell cards as well, so if your opponent would like to MST them, they can MST these two cards because they are considered spell cards in the Pendulum Zone. But, how do we actually Pendulum Summon? Well, Pendulum Summoning is actually very simple. All you need to do to Pendulum Summon is have Pendulum Monsters, monsters in your hand, be them Pendulum, Xyz, Pendulum, Xyz Pendulum, Synchro Pendulum, or Fusion Pendulum, to actually be able to summon these cards. So, how do you summon them normally? Well, if all your Pendulum Monsters are in your hand, and they go between the two scale numbers here, which is 1 and 8, so because we have a scale 1 and an 8, we are then able to summon any monster from levels 2 to 7, you can summon these monsters from your hand into the main monster zone, as long as they are between the levels of 1 and 8. If you have a level 1 or 8, you cannot special Pendulum Summon that, but you can Pendulum Summon anything from levels 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 to these main monster zones as we have gotten here. We have a level 3, a level 6, a level 7, a level 5, and a level 4. Now, you can only Pendulum Summon these monsters to the main monster zones if you have them in your hand. But what happens if all these Pendulum Monsters are in your extra deck? Well, if Pendulum Monsters are in your extra deck, you can only summon them to extra monster zones or zones that are pointed to by a Link monster. So, we have not covered Link monsters yet, but that will be in the next episode of How to Yu-Gi-Oh! But Link monsters have arrows on them, and these arrows indicate linked zones. So, if you have a Link monster in the extra monster zone, and you would like to Pendulum Summon monsters from your extra deck, well, you cannot Pendulum Summon the monster into a zone that is unlinked, because of Pendulum Monsters cannot be summoned to unlinked zones. So if you would like to Pendulum Summon with your Pendulum Scales from the extra deck, you can Pendulum Summon monsters from your extra deck to zones that the linked monster points to. But if they are also in your hand, you can also Pendulum Summon from your hand at the same time to successfully Pendulum Summon all of these cards. So, that is how you do a basic Pendulum Summon. But how do you Pendulum Summon Pendulum Summon monsters from your extra deck that aren't normal Pendulum Monsters? Well, let's go ahead and take a look at these monsters. So, these monsters will normally have an effect on them that says, if you can Pendulum Summon level 7 monsters, you can Pendulum Summon this face-up card from your extra deck. So to successfully be able to Pendulum Summon this card, you first need to XC summon the card. Check out the XC's How to Yu-Gi-Oh! Video, and and if it is face up in the extra deck monster zone, because we have a 1 and an 8, we are then able to Pendulum Summon XC's level 7 monsters, so we can Pendulum Summon our Odd Eyes Raging Dragon from our extra deck. Now, there are also others, such as Odd Eyes Venom Dragon. Now, this card does not state on it, I believe, that you can Pendulum Summon this card. So, must be Fusion Summoned and can be Pendulum Summoned, my mistake. So, if you are able to Pendulum Summon this card, you will need to have the levels, or you will need to have scales of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So, you need a scale 11 and any scale below level 10. To successfully be able to Pendulum Summon this card. So, same thing here, if this was a scale 11, then we could successfully Pendulum Summon Odd Eyes Venom Dragon from our extra deck. And then finally, we have Nirvana High Paladin. It's the same process as also the other two monsters. If this card is face up in your extra deck, you are then able to Pendulum Summon it if you have a scale 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, a scale 11, and any scale 9 to a main monster zone. Well, not to a main monster zone, sorry, to an extra monster zone, unless you have a linked monster to summon it to a main monster zone. Otherwise, you must summon it to your extra monster zone. So guys, that is how to Pendulum Summon. I hope it wasn't a bit too confusing, and we will be doing how to link summon very soon. But guys, that is how to Pendulum Summon. I hope you learned how to Pendulum Summon very well from this video, and various things about pendulums themselves, and also how to basically do pendulums overall. So, guys, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to see other Yu-Gi-Oh! Content on this channel, and I will see you guys in the next one. Robert1, signing out. Later.